there's a reason why it all works, and there's this development that happens, and why Patrick has been able to ascend so quickly, and he would have found a way to ascend at some point anyway. I'm just saying, I could never have reached this area of growth that I needed to, whether that was year 1 or 3 or 5. It was accelerated because of all the things that I had in place. When I was in college, I ran a pro-style offense.
Yeah.
I got drafted. I had Bill Belichick teach me. I got to sit behind Drew Bledsoe. I worked really hard to learn all those things and embrace the challenge. And I think when you're a young quarterback, ultimately that's what you're trying to do. Be in a situation where you can learn, grow, develop. It's all about mentorship. It's all about the people that come in your life. I see Bo Nix from Denver. He's got Sean Payton there. He's a phenomenal coach. He's going to get great coaching. They're going to have great scheme. A lot of times the first reads for him are going to be open because he's got a great play caller that knows how to design things. So then you go on the other side of it. You know, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks that don't make it. Maybe they wouldn't have made it anyway, but I'm just saying there's a potential that they could have. Look at Sam Darnold now. He's playing really well in Minnesota. He's got a good coach. He's got a good scheme. He's got some good receivers. He's playing well. You know, when he was at the Jets, he didn't have all those things quite in place. So,
yeah. And so this is what I wanted to really highlight about Bo Nix, that this is the luxury that the Denver Broncos have, having Sean Payton as the coach, right? You get to evaluate and maximize the return on Bo Nix. So if he doesn't end up being what you hope, you can know, well, we gave it our best shot, right? We don't really have to question the coaching. And I think we've already seen the significant growth with Bo Nix. I know a lot of people are kind of, you know, didn't feel good about that Broncos-Ravens game. And it was funny because I'm watching that game and, you know, the score obviously got a little out of control and all of that. But I'm watching this game and I'm like, you know, Bo Nix actually is playing pretty well. I know the box score might not highlight that and the scoreboard might not highlight that, but I'm like, Bo Nix is actually, you know, playing pretty well. And it was so funny because then that night, you know, Colin Cowherd and John Middlecoff, they have like their podcast after, you know, they talk about like 4 or 5 NFL games or whatever. And they didn't actually talk about the Broncos game, but John Middlecoff, you know, they referenced Bo Nix and John Middlecoff said, hey, you know, he actually played pretty well today. You know, he actually didn't really play that bad. And I was like, yes, like that was my read as well. And it's tough because the Ravens know how to play with the lead with the best of them, right? Like you have to be able to keep up with the Ravens. Otherwise, they're going to make everything difficult for you, both offensively and defensively, right? They will attack you. We've seen them do it to the Bills. I mean, look what Josh Allen was able to do, and that's Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is an unbelievable talent. And it was a very similar experience of watching Josh Allen versus the Baltimore Ravens and watching Bo Nix versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I'm not saying that they're the same players or that they're going to have the same trajectory, but what it was to me was I see this quarterback who's going up against, you know, a stacked deck essentially, right? A rough score, and yet he's trying his best. He's balling. He's doing the things. He's making plays, right? All these plays aren't working out necessarily, but they're putting their team in a position to at least do something rather than just crash and burn. We've seen other teams just crash and burn. We've seen quarterbacks unable to do anything. You got Bo Nix literally catching touchdown passes, which was amazing. That can't go understated. That really can't. I know it was fun, and some people are like, well, he's a quarterback. I want to see him throw touchdown passes, not catch on passes. It just shows you his physicality, his strength, his mobility, his football IQ, the trust that Sean Payton has in him. That definitely can't go understated. And at the beginning of the game, the defense felt ready, right? You know, there was a huge third down to force the punt after a tough interception that was, you know, not really Bo Nix's fault completely. It was just one of those more fluky things. And it was just the Broncos were ready for the moment. That's the thing. I understand the game got out of control scoreboard-wise. And sometimes you can look at it and just be like, oh, they just weren't good enough or this or that. They weren't ready. The Broncos were ready. It was just that they needed to be able to keep pace with them, and with some mistimed drops and some bad mistimed penalties, they weren't able to, which then allowed the Ravens to pile on the points. And once they have that lead, it's just you're just too deep in the hole to get out with a team like the Ravens, right? They're gonna go off, and that just is what it is. So that's why I really don't think that the score was really super indicative of the Broncos team as a whole and Bo Nix as a whole. I think there was a lot to a lot to be desired there. One of the notes that I wrote was, receivers not doing good enough getting open, right? Even Romo pointed out multiple perfect throws leading to incompletions, right? Which then compounds any of the bad throws by Bo Nix, right? Like, that was the other thing that I wanted to highlight. It's like when you have drop passes that lead to incompletions or to players that are just not really getting that open, and so every throw is contested. When then Bo Nix is going to throw a bad throw, like every quarterback does, it then compounds. It then makes it look like everything's even worse. And Bo Nix just can't throw. And what's going on? This offense looks stuck, right? Like it muddies the waters even more. When in reality, it was like, no, man. Like, he's balling. He's putting his team in a position. They're just not getting the job done. Sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're just going up against a better team. Sometimes it's just not your day, right? And that's why you play a whole season, right? That's why you don't just say, okay, let's figure out, are the Broncos good or not? We're going to put all our eggs in the basket based off of the game versus the Ravens. Can't do that. The Raiders beat the Ravens. The Browns beat the Ravens. Doesn't automatically mean that you're a good team if you beat them or not. This was a barometer game for me, and I liked what I saw, but also there was stuff that I didn't like, right? There's a reason why the Broncos aren't a Super Bowl contender this year. Again, sorry, I don't think I'm telling you anything that you don't already know. That's why it's going to be interesting to see the follow-up against the Chiefs. That I'm really fascinated for. Spags should be able to be in his bag to make a rookie quarterback uncomfortable, right? That is what great defensive coaches and great defensive teams are able to do. But you have the luxury of having Sean Payton there, so it's going to be really interesting. I'm really fascinated for that matchup and see how it unfolds. I think the spread's like, Broncos are getting 8 or something, so clearly Vegas doesn't believe in them. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really, really excited for this game. But I just love how Tom Brady really highlights the importance of the situation, right? The importance of development, having the right pieces around you, having the right coaches around you, right? Singling out Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Again, if it's good enough for Tom Brady, then it's got to be good enough for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, right? I mean, it's I really continue to think that the future will be very bright with Nix and the Broncos and Sean Payton, and it gives you such a massive leg up. And you can compare Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears versus Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos just on Sunday alone, just this past Sunday. I don't care about anything else that happened. Let's just look at this past Sunday. You had two teams, two rookie quarterbacks, that things were just not going as planned, right? They were just not going as planned, not how they thought the game was going to unfold, right? That's obvious. One is playing the Cardinals, one is playing the Ravens. You watch Caleb Williams, and you're seeing a lot of issues. And again, we don't have to, I don't even want to have to focus on, was it the coaching, was it the game plan? Throw all that out. One quarterback looked like he was struggling, right? He was struggling. That it wasn't working for him no matter how we want to slice it. It was just like they just couldn't get anything going. And you were concerned. And as John Middlecoff pointed out, he looks like a backup quarterback who just came into the game, a third or fourth round backup quarterback where the starter just went down and you just like threw him in. That's what Caleb Williams looked like. And I think that was very accurate observation. Now you look at Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos in this game versus the Ravens. And again, obviously not going according to plan. Obviously not this great game where Bo Nix is throwing for over 300 yards and 25 for 30 completions and 4 touchdowns, whatever. But what do you see? You see a quarterback who can play. The game's not going as planned, but he's still playing. He's still making plays. He's still making something out of nothing. He doesn't look lost, confused, a mess. He doesn't look like a backup. In that moment, again, I'm not saying that this is the reality in terms of the Broncos team, but again, if you just really pull back, you would say this looks like a really good quarterback on a bad team. right? Again, whether it's a bad team or a team that's just playing bad, that's what I'm saying. Don't get lost in that. Don't get lost in that. And they're just playing a better team. And that's what this looks like. It was very reminiscent, which I reference a lot, which you see this, especially if you're from an area where they don't have like elite high school programs. You have a lot of high school teams where they pretty much only have like a few good players and everyone else is just like, not doing anything. And it's often the quarterback is the most athletic, strongest person there. And it's just like, call hike, and it's just like, try your best, man. Like you're going to have to run. You're going to have to try to throw when someone's open. Maybe they catch it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Right? The head coach is like some guy who's like, I'm a head coach of a football team. And it's just like, it just really is relying on the athleticism and the IQ of the quarterback. And again, I'm not saying that that's like the actual representation of who the Broncos are, Sean Payton and everything, but that's what it looked more so, which again is a highlight and a testament and a credit to Bo Nix. The fact that he was able to look like that in a game like this. Because you have Dak Prescott not looking like that, right? You have, as I pointed out, Caleb Williams not looking like that. I mean, we can go down the list of plenty of quarterbacks that just look lost, confused, and a mess in those moments. Because all quarterbacks have those moments. All teams have those moments. Again, the greatest teams, the Kansas City Chiefs win a Super Bowl last year, and they looked like that. They looked awful. They looked awful against the Broncos, against the Raiders. We've seen it happen. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize. Like, that's not me saying the Broncos are this terrible team. They look like a bad high school team. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say that the fact that you had a quarterback that shows that depth of resilience and still looks like he's a gamer when everything is going wrong, essentially, that's big. That's really, 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 really important to see. I cannot emphasize that enough. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos and the development that Tom Brady's talking about, how last week went? How are you feeling about the Kansas City Chiefs game? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. And I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.